And today I am joined by my good friend, Irish Sicilian and lifelong Niner fan. That's what it says on your description. Aaron from 49ers First Takes. Aaron, what's going on, dude?
Not much. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. You know, it's funny because you go back a week, right? And we were talking about, we were talking to DMs about, fuck, man, it seems like the Niners are not going to get Robert Saleh. It seems like, it really felt like it was going to be perhaps a Brandon Staley, Nick Sorensen combination of defense and special teams. It just kind of felt like, okay, we're just recycling what we already got. It's like Taco Bell. It's the same ingredients, just in different shapes and sizes, right? But then all hell broke loose. Trent Baalke got fired. Liam Cohen got hired. And then that led to the inevitable announcement that Robert Saleh is now the defensive coordinator in San Francisco. We'll start with that right there. Aaron, what was your take on Robert Saleh coming back to San Francisco?
Man, there was so much misinformation going around.
Pretty bad.
So many people trying to scoop each other. And I was so frustrated because, when you want something bad to happen, as bad as we do, going back to something that works and seeing if we can, recapture some of this old glory and stuff. And like, oh my God, when it finally happened and it was like Barros, this person, Mioka, I was like, oh, finally. It's
it felt real.
We can breathe, I feel like the off season really couldn't start until that move happened. So it's not always good to go backwards and date an ex from the past, but in this case, I'm okay with it because the players know him, the organization knows him, and he was part of some really good success before he left. So I'm happy to have him back, man. It's great.
No, it's absolutely great. And I think when you look at a scheme fit for the 49ers, this is perfect. You have a guy that's already been a part of this organization. He's run the system, the wide nine. And I think he's going to make this defense better. I think he's going to influence other players who want to come here. I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I've also talked about this with Tom Jensen of SI and Sterling Bennett of 95.7 The Game, was that it wouldn't surprise me if we saw the return of one or the other, which is Javon Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas, because they followed him to New York with the Jets. So to me, look, we already need help at the defensive tackle position. If one of those guys wants to come back and play at the veteran minimum or play at a very, friendly rate, not talking about $8 million a year, maybe they come back at $3 or $4 million, whatever, I think the Niners would do that if they can solidify that defensive tackle position either through the draft or through free agency. Because, I mean, we talk about other players that are out there. Obviously, for me, it's DJ Jones. I think that's the guy that they really want to get, because if you look back at like 2019, our defense, right? What was the one thing they did really well besides, the pass rush, was they shut down the run game. And DJ Jones was a huge part of that. When DJ Jones hurt that ankle and was out, and we didn't have him for the Super Bowl, that changed. It changed the way that we played against the Chiefs because we couldn't stop the run. So now look at it this way: if we get DJ Jones back in the building, right, and he's your defensive tackle right there next to Nick Bosa, and we know that the defensive tackle position is very flush in the upcoming draft, so you could go that route. But I still think getting an experienced guy and DJ Jones, someone who's familiar with our system, familiar with our coaching staff, I think at this point, to me, it feels like Kyle Shanahan wants to go with everything that feels familiar, everything that feels like it used to. And I know that sounds like a broken record, but I really do think that that's kind of what he's going for when it comes to kind of rebuilding this defense. And I think it starts with DJ Jones, but it also starts with bringing back Robert Saleh. This guy has a ton of energy. He rallies the troops on the sidelines, and this is somebody they needed. And I think that's why you heard talks about the Niners making considerations for Pete Carroll, because they wanted that guy. They wanted that energy source from the coaching staff on the sidelines every game. And they didn't get that from Nick Sorensen or from Steve Wilks. Now, obviously, I think Wilks was better than Sorensen, but I think they want a guy that, they want a guy like Saleh who brings that energy, brings that enthusiasm, brings that intensity that the other guys weren't able to bring. And not only that, but This guy's a mastermind when it comes to being a defensive coordinator. I mean, you look at his years with the Jets; they all had great defenses while he was there. I mean, even last year they had the number 3 ranked defense in the league, and so his defenses have always been extremely well. In this case, it feels like, hey, look, they probably told Robert Saleh, when you come in, you're going to be the defense. You're going to be the coach of the defense. I'm not even going to fuck with whatever you do. I just want you to run that defense like that's your team. And I think they have so much trust and faith in Robert Saleh that that's exactly what they're going to do.
Kyle got himself his own Steve Spagnuolo so that he can concentrate on the offense.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons Kansas City is so successful, regardless of what we think about rigging games and refs and all that, is they have a defensive coordinator who is head and shoulders above everybody else. And so, Andy Reid has no worries whatsoever about that on defense, and he could run the offense the way that he wants. And I think, like I said, I'm not always good with going backwards, but I think Robert Saleh fits exactly what we're trying to do. And the fact that Kyle doesn't have to look over his shoulder and feel like he has to babysit a defensive coordinator, like in the Super Bowl with Wilkes, where he had to call a timeout because he wasn't happy what Wilkes was calling on the field on that final drive. I think it was the final drive.
Yeah, it was final drive.
So there's that. As far as DJ Jones or Solomon Thomas or Kinlaw, if I had to pick one, it would probably be DJ Jones. I don't know how excited, and that's just me. I know you've been talking about it. I don't know how excited I'd be to bring back Kinlaw or Solomon Thomas, just based on, Kinlaw with his injuries, and like he didn't really do much for the 49ers. Same with Solomon Thomas. But you are right when it comes to bringing in bodies that are familiar with the
Yeah.
scheme. So, yeah, I'm so happy that he's back. Uh, Man, it was just like I said, there was so much misinformation. It was so frustrating because, you had one person saying it's nothing but a done deal, and then you have other people saying uh, it's in line to happen, but there's some other interviews still out there. And it was like, man, there was a lot of panic online. I know you saw it, where people were like, dude, what if the Niners completely biff this and screw this up and they get nobody?
It
And
was
then
a
they had
possibility, dude. It was
yeah, and they have to go to, you know, putting Sorensen on special teams and, going with an also ran ex head coach as your defensive coordinator. Those were all definite real worries. But it all worked out. So who cares, right?
it all worked out. And then the Niners made more news this past week when they announced the hiring. Let me pull this up real quick. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong screen. When they announced the hiring of Brant Boyer as their special teams coach. And again, they're bringing in another guy that used to work with Robert Saleh while he was in New York. And it's a change from what we had with not Nick Sorensen, but with Brian Schneider, who, and I posted this out earlier. This fucking guy should have got fired before midseason, before the bye week. He should have been gone.
Yep.
And I know that Kyle Shanahan's not the kind of guy that likes to make those kind of moves and have to reshuffle the deck and figure it out. But to me, something had to change during the season because there were fuck ups all over the team, but you had to hold somebody accountable early on. Unfortunately, he didn't want to do that. I think that was a bad idea, in my opinion. But here we go. Now we have Brant Boyer, a former NFL player, and has been a special teams coach with the Jets for a little over 5 years. Aaron, what'd you think about this move?
Considering where we were, Andre, we were pretty low. So, the only place we could go is up. He seemed to have, there's certain statistical categories that he did well with on special teams. So I think it's a huge upgrade, considering just how bad things were last year. I'm just glad that Kyle and John were introspective and really left no stone unturned when it came to the coaching staff on defense and special teams. So I am more than happy that we have a new special teams coordinator.
Yes,
It's,
absolutely.
I'm excited to see, if they bring any players back, and from the past to put them back on special teams, a la Oren Burks or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But special teams was such a problem last year. Not just with Jake Moody missing kicks, but kick coverage, just everything. It was an abject failure. So I'm glad it's the off season to me so far has started with 2 A+ moves, which needed to happen after a 6-11 season. Everything and anything should be on the table. So I'm glad John and Kyle really took it seriously to improve things. So, but we'll see. We don't know, and we won't know until next season. We have 8 months
8 months.
to worry
It's terrible
about this. As much I said something on X, I said as much as I'm happy about Boyer and Sala being hired, um, it's still going to be February, and we have a long wait. So, and based on how things are going and who's in the Super Bowl, as much as I'm excited about all this stuff, it could all still mean nothing. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just kind of letting it absorb.
Anything can happen.
Okay,
Let's put it that way. Anything can
right.
happen. Terran Rodriguez, host of the SoCal Sports Show, boo. He says Steve Spagnuolo is a defensive mastermind. How he hasn't gotten a coaching job is beyond me. And my take on this is that I think that Spagnuolo has told his agent that he doesn't want to move. I think he wants to stay in Kansas City, and because Kansas City is paying him handsomely, the Niners tried to lure him away, and the Chiefs paid him more money, and he stayed. He's winning Super Bowls. He is essentially, like you said earlier, Aaron, he is what they got in a Robert Saleh. He is their defensive coach. Andy Reid doesn't even need to worry about the defense all that much because Spagnuolo, he runs the entire defense. And because they're winning championships and he's getting paid handsomely, why would we want to go anywhere else? Like, he's like, I'm comfortable here. I like it here. We're winning and everything's hunky dory and it's great. And, Taryn also says he's also the host of Set Point as well over on IE Sports Radios. Don't forget about that. But let's talk about that. So when we look at this past weekend, we're going to shift gears just a little bit here. When we talk about the AFC Championship game between the Bills and the Chiefs, my God. I mean, we talk about a lot of bad calls. This game was littered with bad calls, especially when he throws it to, I think it was Kincaid, right, and he dives for a first down, and they immediately place the ball, before the first down marker, which I was like, whoa, wait a minute, dude. Second of all, why didn't he challenge that spot on the field? Is one, I would have challenged it. Why not? Two, the next play, he clearly got the first down, and they still gave it back to the Chiefs. And then what happened? The Chiefs got the ball back, and they scored a touchdown. And that was basically, at that point, it was like, oh, God. They lost all momentum. And this is the problem that I have with the Kansas City Chiefs when any team plays them. And I shouldn't say it's a problem, but this is what they run into, is that the Chiefs, in my opinion, are the NFL's version of the San Antonio Spurs. A lot of them would say, oh, they're like the Golden State Warriors, No, they're not. And I'll tell you why. Because the Warriors turn the ball over like no other. If you watch basketball, they're horrible with the ball. Even in the championship days, a lot of turnovers. The Chiefs are like the San Antonio Spurs. Why? Because they execute at a high level. They don't, and pardon my language, they don't fuck up. They don't fuck up on defense. They don't fuck up on offense. They don't make the big mistake at the worst time to fuck themselves over. They don't make mistakes. And they got the refs who are, calling everything for them. So when you have a team that doesn't make mistakes and it executes, especially in the red zone, no matter how bad their team has been in the regular season, they're tough to beat. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on opposing teams because they're so worried about not making that mistake. Don't fuck up. Don't make that big mistake because they're going to capitalize on it. Well, the Niners played them in the Super Bowl. In terms of pace, in terms of advantage, we were dominating them. The score wasn't huge, but offensively, they couldn't even move the ball. And then we fumbled on the punt return. We fucked up. And then they scored a touchdown, and then that changed the whole game. And then they were in the game. But throughout the entire game, they couldn't do anything. They couldn't move the ball. They'd get one first down, and they have to punt because our defense was flying around. Dre Greenlaw was out there. Travis Kelce wasn't a factor. And then what happened? Greenlaw got hurt. Then the fumble. And they got back in the game. And then it just sort of changed the momentum of the entire game. Oren Burks got absolutely worked by Travis Kelce. And now he's going to have to guard him again, which I think he's going to get worked again unless he's improved that much to where he can guard Travis Kelce, because Kelce lit him up in the second half. Absolutely. And so when we talk about the Super Bowl, I mean, that's something that we are going to talk about, but what would you take on the AFC Championship game? Do you think the Bills got screwed over, or do you think the Chiefs won that game fair and square?
It's a mix of both for me. Buffalo had some opportunities at different times in the game to do what they had to do in order to, take the lead or move the ball. And the thing that really got me with Buffalo, like you said, or with the game in general, is there's such a small margin for error with the Chiefs when you play them.
That's it.
It's so small. I said this on X. I said, I don't believe games are rigged. But if you go back to the Allen Iverson controversy of the 2007 with the crooked ref, the betting on games, calling games a certain way to get back at Iverson for threats that he made to an official.
Yeah.
For people to just go out of their way and say that there's no possibility that something like this could happen in the NFL, I think it's ludicrous. Bill Burr was asked about it. He doesn't think it's rigged, but he says there's definitely, it's too much of a coincidence that every game Kansas City doesn't commit any penalties and the other team commits a ton. I mean, anytime you look at the penalty discrepancy every time you play the Chiefs, it's ridiculous. That was a first down with Josh Allen. It was clear as day on the broadcast. The Kincaid, like you said, the play right before with Kincaid,
yeah,
where he took a diving swipe at the first down and they didn't even look at it, was just ridiculous to me. So you couple that into the fact of you have that going against you, and then Buffalo, not capitalizing when they had the ball at different times during the game. It's to beat the Chiefs, everything has to be perfect at all times. And to me, Buffalo didn't play that perfect game. That final drive where they had the ball, that was a masterful call by Spagnuolo.
Yeah.
It really was. And the Bills had no answer for it.
Well, he almost caught the ball, Kincaid, and he dropped it.
Yeah, he still almost caught it. But
that would have been at least a field goal attempt if he would have caught that ball.
Right. It was just, but that was a great call, though.
Yeah.
He dialed up the perfect call at the perfect time. So there's like this teeter-totter that goes in my brain where it's like, I hate the Chiefs. They beat us twice in the Super Bowl. Nobody can beat them. But there's also, the other part of me that thinks that, when you watch enough games and you see what's going on, things just always seem off when teams play the Chiefs when it comes to officiating. I'm at a point now, I said that on X that I was indifferent about the Super Bowl. I was indifferent about everything because at the end of the day, like, it's not us in the Super Bowl. It's the Chiefs and the Eagles. And I don't see a way where the Eagles can win that game anyways. So I just don't want to deal with it right now. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to think about it, but
I'm going to watch it because it's a Super Bowl, and plus I'm doing a stream on Super Bowl Sunday. But
there you go.
When you look at the other matchup, which was the Commanders and the Eagles, right? You saw the Commanders turn the ball over 3 times, and that resulted in 21 points for the Eagles. After 2 turnovers that resulted in 14 points, the Commanders still had a chance to get back in this game. You don't feel that way when the Chiefs are doing that. If they're going against the Chiefs after 2 turnovers, it's over. You're like, forget it. This is the lost cause.
100%.
And then this stat right here. I mean, when I saw this stat, the Chiefs have 90% fewer penalties than their opponents. Now, you could argue that, like, hey, look, they're just really good. They execute at a very high level. But still, that's in the NFL, that's almost impossible. Come on. You got to be kidding me with that. And not only that, but the last time that we saw the Chiefs get their ass kicked and not get any calls and get a lot of calls called against them in my opinion, was in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. Why? Because Tom Brady was on the other side. And the NFL wanted to cement Tom Brady as the greatest of all time. And I think that's why you saw so many holding calls. This team looked completely discombobulated against the Buccaneers. And they had Tyreek Hill. And still, they got their ass kicked. After that, it's been all Chiefs, all Mahomes the entire time. So we'll see what happens in this next matchup on Super Bowl Sunday. When we talk about the Super Bowl, I will say that I think the Eagles can win this game, but I don't think they will. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game, and I really feel like this game is going to be very similar to what we saw against the Buffalo Bills in terms of the score, in terms of how close it was. And I think that towards the end of the game, they're going to get some calls. They're going to get some scoring opportunities that they're not going to that they will take advantage of, and then the Eagles will just kind of just be just out of reach because their defense I think will stop them like the Niners defense did. But you can only stop a Andy Reid Mahomes offense for so long, and if you don't keep piling on points, they're going to get back in the game somehow, some way. They're like cockroaches. They'll find a way to come back. And so I hope the Eagles win. I hope the Eagles whoop their ass. But I don't see it happening. I see a final score of Chiefs probably 27-24 or 31-24 Chiefs.
I just don't think Jalen Hurts is good enough.
And that's the thing too, is that so if you're Steve Spagnuolo, and not to cut you off, sorry, but if you're Steve Spagnuolo, your whole scheme is to how do we stop Saquon Barkley?
Exactly.
And if they're able to slow him down, not stop him, but able to slow him down and make Jalen Hurts into a pocket passer, that's where I think that's where they want it to be at. They're like, we'd rather have him throwing against McDuffie and the rest of our secondary as opposed to giving the ball to Saquon and running all over our faces, which I don't think is going to happen. But that's kind of the way I see it going down.
Yeah, they use the similar argument with the 49ers with talking about, punishing people for having all-stars around them.
Yeah.
And it's similar to the argument with Jalen Hurts. I personally think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Just personal.
Oh, opinion. I absolutely do. Absolutely.
I don't see it, bro. I just see Spagnuolo coming up with another A+ game plan. Spagnuolo's defense against a quarterback as good as Josh Allen and still getting a W out of it and coming up with crucial stops at crucial times is one thing. But now you're going against a guy like Jalen Hurts, who is essentially the cab driver of an offense with a ton of superstars. And you're right. Barkley has been amazing. He reminded me of McCaffrey during 2023.
Yeah. The Eagles are essentially the Niners of last year. 100%. They really are.
It looks a carbon copy of what we're going into. Although their defense is way better than ours was last year.
Our defense had a lot of names, but their defense is just a lot deeper.
It is really deep. And, that rookie Jalen Carter that they got, even though say what you want about his personal life, that was a huge draft pick. They got rid of Hargrave. Everybody thought like, uh-oh. Of course, Hargrave comes to the Niners, has done nothing, got paid, and they have a guy early in his career on a cheap deal causing havoc. It's going to be interesting to watch this game, Andre, with all the attention on the refs and all the attention on all the talk, and to see how this game is officiated, if it's officiated any differently, or if we get an even worse situation than we had in the championship game, where they're blatant mistakes that everybody's can see, and then they're talking about it the next day on every station but Kansas City's about how once again the refs came to their rescue. I hope it's not that. If it's Kansas City, let it be a clean ass whooping. And if it's the Eagles, I'm pulling for the Eagles, but I'm kind of not, because I'm a Niners fan and it's the NFC and the Eagles are one of our rivals. But I don't think anybody outside of Kansas City wants the Chiefs win.
I mean, you're talking about the refs. You're talking about Mahomes. You're talking about the Chiefs. You can't forget Taylor Swift. Oh, God. They're going to have her all over the fucking screen all the time going, Oh my God, they just scored!
I was so hoping Buffalo would win because Haley
I know.
Steinfeld is so much better looking.
And I even deleted the overlay. I can't even look at that anymore. But that leads me into our next topic. Okay, so we talked about the Super Bowl, talked about the playoffs, obviously, kind of how we got here. Now we got to focus on how to get back there. And so when we look at some of these free agents that we have, here's a post from Al Sacco over on X. Notable free agents that have been brought in the past 2 years, right? So when you look at our previous free agents acquisitions over the past few years, in 2023, Hargrave, Darnold, Isaiah Oliver, Feliciano, Austin Bryant. This year, Campbell, Collins through a trade, Dobbs, Elliott, Gross Matos, Floyd, Saubert, Yasin, Yadam, Patrick Taylor. After 2024, we were like, yo, we're going back to the Super Bowl. Let's go. Didn't really work out that way. Obviously, out of these signings, Hargrave was a bust. I think that's fair to say. Darnold was Sam Darnold. He was a backup, whatever. I thought he was fine. Isaiah Oliver was a disaster. Feliciano was good. Didn't play in 2024, really. I think he didn't play at all, actually. But I thought he was serviceable in 2023. And then Austin Bryant, I don't, whatever happened to him. I don't even remember what happened to that guy. I don't even think about it. Antonio Bryan, remember that guy? And then you look at 2024, Collins, Dobbs, Elliott. Out of these guys here on the 2024 list, because most of those guys in 2023 are not even going to be on the team. Feliciano's probably going to retire. He might come back. We don't know. But when you look at the 2024 list, who do you think off that list is going to be a cap casualty? We know Campbell's gone. He's a loser. But do you think that any of these guys they're going to cut moving forward based on, maybe who they draft or who they sign?
I could see Taylor go. I could see Yadam go. I could see Sin go.
Yeah.
Robert. They look like they're possibly looking towards getting a veteran quarterback, aka or a la Joe Flacco, something like that.
Joe Flacco.
Yeah. So if I had to say, all those guys probably won't be back. I do see Floyd returning. I think he'll be a good, if the Niners go edge at 11, I think Floyd would make a really good rotational pass rusher, especially if they go, say, NASCAR package, like they did back in 2019, where they brought all pass rushers on the field at the same time. You bring him Bosa with another edge guy in the draft. You bring in someone like Floyd and maybe even Gross Matos, because I think the Niners will keep him too. So out of that list, I think the two edge rushers or pass rushers will be the ones that stay. But I can see all those other guys are completely expendable.
Absolutely.
Number one being Devondre Campbell.
Oh, yeah. He's already gone. Fuck that guy. I think, obviously, Dobbs signed a 1-year deal. He'll be gone. I do like the idea, though, of bringing in a guy like Joe Flacco, because everyone keeps saying, well, you got to bring someone in to challenge Brock. Who can challenge Brock? If you're signing Brock Purdy to a massive contract, it's not about challenging him anymore. Now it's about bringing in a guy like Joe Flacco who has the experience, who can also help mentor Brock Purdy. When Brock's, has those moments where he fucks up and he's down himself, who's he going to turn to? Fucking, what's his name? Jared Allen? Like, hey, man. You know what I mean? Can you imagine? You make a mistake, you go to the sidelines, and then you can talk to Joe Flacco about it, who's won a Super Bowl against the Niners. And, he has a wealth of experience and knowledge, as opposed to Allen or Dobbs. Like, no, that doesn't do anything. It's just a dude.
Yeah, be a great move.
I think it'd be a great move. Now, I think Flacco is the kind of guy that, let's say Brock goes down for like 2-3 weeks. He's a guy who can go out there and win you 2 out of 3 games, win you 3 games in a row. He could do that on a short term. Now, look, if any time you lose your starting quarterback for the season, you're fucked. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Even if you find a way to get in the playoffs, you're probably not going to go very deep because you got your backup. But I think a guy like Flacco would be awesome. And everyone's saying, well, he might cost too much. He might cost too much. If there's ever a year that you blow the bank and you blow your fucking salary cap, it's this year, because it's going to be in San Francisco. You better go for broke. And so that's why I think that the rumors about DJ Reed coming over to the San Francisco 49ers, I think that's real. I think that's absolutely real. And I think that Salah's been in contact with him. And I think that getting him as your slot corner would be like, holy shit. Now you have 3 starting caliber corners that are going to shut you down. The only place that they have weaknesses, I think, is at safety. at free safety because you got a lot of strong safeties. You got Hufanga. Well, you had Hufanga, probably not going to come back. We don't know yet. But you got Malik Mustafa. You have Jair Brown. Those are more strong safety type players. So the safety is where you're kind of weak. I would imagine they're probably going to go with Jair Brown and probably draft one as well. I think, if the market doesn't pan out for Hufanga or Greenlaw, I think, they're open to bringing back Hufanga at a discounted rate. And when it comes to, obviously Dre Greenlaw, I think you got to resign him. I'm imagining they probably want to do like a 1-year deal, but he's the guy you can't really let go because of the pure potential and pure talent that he brings. So obviously you're wondering if he can do that coming off the injury, but I think he's a guy that you can't really let go. You can't. And you got Robert Saleh there as your defensive coordinator, which is a huge move. I mean, this is absolutely huge to have Robert Saleh back as your defensive coordinator. The only thing that would have been like close to this would have been getting a Steve Spagnuolo or getting back to Miko Ryans and just be like, holy shit. So this is great. This is absolutely great. And I do think that he's going to be able to bring over players from the Jets to come join him over in San Francisco because
I was going to say that.
They're going to see
with coaches too. I think his coaching staff.
Yeah.
That he's not walking into a coaching staff that's already assembled. So I think the Niners assistants will be different. Real interesting. I want to bring this up to you. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's been a lot of reports about, the Niners need to groom somebody post Saleh, and KJ Wright keeps coming up. Everybody keeps talking about the former Seattle Seahawks linebacker, KJ Wright. He's part of the Niners coaching staff.
He is. He's at the Senior Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah. He's at the Senior Bowl right now. I think that's something that I would love to see. I know he's an ex-Seahawk, and a lot of people have a lot of problems with it. The Niners need to figure out a way to have a coach that they can go to once Saleh moves on once again, if he does, after say 2 years or something.
Yeah, I think that's still something that if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're saying we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think all they're focused on is and I'm not trying to disregard what you're saying at all. I agree. Like you have to have somebody to take his place, but I think they're looking at it like, hey, what do we do to win next year? And I think that's what they're looking at. And then also, of course, if things could get any worse, breaking news: the Dallas Cowboys have hired Nick Sorensen as their special teams coordinator. Like, what? And not only that, but then they hired Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach. It's a fucking dumpster fire over in Dallas. I don't know what they're doing. Nobody wants to play there, and it's like you went from the prospect of hiring fucking Deion Sanders to now you're going with Schottenheimer. Like, oh my god! And Schottenheimer's like, he's like, we can win Super Bowls with Dak Prescott. I mean, look, nothing against Dak Prescott. I think he's a competitor, but it's just a joke. It really is. The one thing I worry about with KJ Wright though is now that you have Pete Carroll over in Las Vegas, I could see him plucking KJ Wright next year to come over there and be like his linebackers coach or his one of those coaching positions that he'll give him more relevance in. And I see that happening, but you never know. Who are they going to get to replace Robert Saleh? I don't fucking know at this point. I just want to see them win. I want to see them dominate and just keep going.
Andre's like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to see them be better next year.
That's it. I just want to see them get better. I just want to see them compete. I mean, how many weeks did we sit here and be like, oh god, like when you had to talk about the game, you're just like, so the Niners couldn't pull this off against the Rams. Like, oh, it's just like, it's so depressing. And now
I was so checked out, even doing content with some friends. I was doing content with some other people for a while, and then those streams kind of stopped. So I kind of got a new group of people that I was doing streams with, and by the time those finals weeks, we just figured out a way to get through an hour. Most of our streams in the last month, bro, we were already talking off season. We weren't even talking about the games. We were like, so in off season, here's my list of things we need to do. And it was like December 1st.
Let's do a draft breakdown. Like, oh no,
There was people, bro. I saw people doing draft stuff like Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers. He was already talking draft towards the end of the season. And now he's great. I mean, I love Brian Peacock. But there was a lot of people, even like a John Chapman, who's really, really good and a positive guy. This past season got to even people like him. That's how bad it got. When
That's
you
how bad it
see
got.
a pillar in the content creating community who is as glass half full as a guy like John Chapman, who everybody, I think he's real talented.
He
It
is.
was
He's a funny
getting to
guy.
him. I'm just like, oh my God, it's that bad.
It's that bad. It's not only that, but like it's just the frustration from where we were the year before to where we were this past season. It was just very frustrating to see them just not execute at a high level like they normally do, and that was hard. That was hard to watch. Another thing too I want to talk about was this, and I had that. I showed you that picture of Roger Goodell saying it's short. That was probably during the AFC title game, but the Niners were looking at a look. I I think they were just doing their due diligence. Are they going to draft a kicker? I fucking hope not. But I do think that when it comes to Jake Moody, that they got to bring in some competition. Everyone's been saying the same thing. I think you bring in some guys off the street and let's see who's better. The one area that you are, benefiting on with Jake Moody is that you're not paying him a lot of money. He's still under team control for another 2 years. So there is that factor, but if the guy's not making kicks, he's got to fucking go. He cannot keep costing us games. And if Brant Boyer says, "Hey, this guy's got to go," I think they're going to say, "Okay, this guy's got to go." But what was your take on the Andres Bora Eagles, whatever the fuck his name is, from Miami?
Not surprised one bit. As much as I'm shaking my head in disbelief, bro, I'm telling you right now, I could totally see them dipping their toes in the
No,
draft again for another kicker. You know why? Because John and Kyle don't care what 49er fans think.
no. I mean, obviously, yeah, they don't. They're like,
They
they,
care when it comes to like supporting the team and showing up to games. But you say no way, or a lot of people say no way.
mhm.
Um, I would love to see this guy's draft grade and his prediction of where he might go. Could I see them drafting him? 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's scary because the whole talk from anybody who has a platform is you don't pay, you don't draft kickers. You can get them anywhere from undrafted free agents to seventh round picks or whatever from people from different leagues.
Hmm.
And here's the Niners saying to that and still going. And I'm telling you, bro, I'm telling you, keep this compartmentalized in the back of your brain till April, and that might actually happen. And everybody's going
Yeah.
to pee their pants over it. But I'm just saying, be ready.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. We're talking with Aaron of 49ers First Takes. You can find him on YouTube, also over on X. Um, and so we talk about kickers. Yes, I would look for the undrafted kicker. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to break the bank to try and get this deal. No, don't draft a kicker. Just sign one off the street, and they're probably just as good. I mean, I would argue that the two kickers that we did sign, Matthew Wright and Anders Carlson, were better than Jake Moody was this season. And it's sad to say that because, we drafted this guy with the idea that he was going to, be our kicker moving forward after we got rid of Robbie Gould, who was, he hadn't missed a single kick in the postseason. And now we get rid of him because, well, we just don't really want to pay him that kind of money. When it was like, bro, you can't just get rid of a guy who's hasn't missed in the postseason, who's been money for you every year, and you get rid of him? Like, what? What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
I think with them, it was, they needed to have an extra person to do kickoffs and all this other stuff. And they didn't want it. I don't know. They were blowing out freaking Wisnowski's leg on kickoffs, and it was affecting him in the punt game. Ah, bro, like you're right. He never wanted to be here though, Gold. Like he was a
That was
Chicago
the other
guy.
thing. I mean, he had that year where he was trying to get traded back to Chicago. Remember that? It was like, what the fuck? It was like,
He
what's
was
wrong with
so
you?
he was so money though.
He was
That
so
game
money.
against the Packers in Green Bay, where we beat them with the blocked punt. and
Oh,
we
and
got the
he hit
kick
the
at the end, and
yep.
he was just like, "F the Packers." I was just like, "Man, I miss that. I miss a kicker that has swagger and confidence and some ego. Instead, you got the bashful butthead who just is so, oh my god. I can't even look at his face after he misses kicks. I got so angry this year.
I know. He has that smirk on his face where you're just like he has a very punchable face.
Very shit-eating grin. Very, very
Yeah,
much.
you're just like fuck you, asshole. So it is what it is. But Aaron, dude, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and talking
Yeah.
Niners football with me. Obviously, we got to do it again and more as the season goes on, or as next season goes on. I also want to remind everybody that this Super Bowl Sunday, the road to Super Bowl 59 goes through IE Sports Radio. We have our streaming event, an all-day streaming event, bringing you continuous coverage of Super Bowl 59. We're going to have a list of shows starting as early as, I want to say, 7 a.m. Eastern time, all the way leading you up to kickoff, and we'll be having a audio broadcast of the game by USRN. It's the Super Bowl 59 streaming event by IE Sports Radio. Definitely check that out. I will be a part of this as well, so that's pretty cool. And you'll find me at 9 a.m. Pacific time is when I'll be doing my stream covering Super Bowl 59 and how much I hate both these teams. So, Aaron, where can everyone find you and all of your content?
49ers First Takes on Instagram, 49ers First Takes on YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, I'm all over. I do weekly streams during the season. Like Andre said, a lot of us will be doing a lot of off-season stuff in the coming weeks, free agency and the draft. I just want to say that I really love what you do here and how professional of a feel this has.
Oh, thank you.
Not only on your end, but uh, the people that you do this content with, i.e., sports rate. The
Yeah, IE Sports Radio.
yeah. I mean, it just, dude, top notch presentation. The feel of this, I feel like I'm on a radio show, man. So props to you for that. That's
So
it
it's a
was
lot of
cool being a
fun.
part of.
It's a lot of fun. I love talking Niners every week. I actually would probably do more than one show a week if I could, but with my wife and kids, it's a little tough. So I try and do one here, one on my regular channel. But even that gets can get tough at times as well. So, but I appreciate you coming on, man. No, it's a lot of fun doing this. And like I said, we'll be live again for the Super Bowl. So definitely check that out. I'll be live at 9 a.m. Eastern or Pacific time, doing my coverage of Super Bowl 59. I'm going to have a special guest, my brother and brother-in-law, who we usually do the show for Niners postgame. I'm going to have those guys on. We're going to talk about Super Bowl and a whole lot more. So definitely check that out. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on here, dude. I appreciate it. And dude, we'll do it again for sure.
Thanks, brother. Take care,
All right.
everybody.
Guys, you're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio.